Hello, my name is Paul Dick, and I'm a performance enhancement specialist. I'm making this video for APHERD today to highlight some of the dramatic changes I've been able to make through the techniques that I currently use with my athletes and the common public. These same techniques I'll be teaching at the APHERD conference. They are really dramatic in what they are able to achieve, both for development, correction, and restoration of people's movement skills. And as you'll see from the following videos, it isn't just for athletes. They're actually therapeutic moves that are non-invasive, and they can be used by anyone. And the best thing about them is you can teach them to people and they can perform them themselves, so you don't have to put your hands on anybody, and they're completely safe. The first story you're going to see is really very heart-touching. It's about a young man whose mother brought him to me. He was born in an extremely premature weight of under 2 pounds. And you'll see in the video that his movement skills are really lacking. And then after that, we'll show you what we were able to accomplish in just 5 sessions. So I hope you enjoy it. I think it's pretty heart-touching, pretty dramatic.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Michelle, and I am Gunner's mom. He was born at 25 weeks gestation, and he weighed 1 pound, 11 ounces.
And so when you're born that early, a lot of times you have physical therapy. Did he go through that at all?
He did. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, from birth all the way through to like 2nd grade, so probably about 7 or 8 years.
7 years, oh, that's great.
Yep.
And I'm sure he saw a lot of improvement. Did he have any delays in crawling by any chance? Or?
Yeah, he didn't crawl till he was probably about 18 months.
18 months,
Yeah.
Okay. And how about walking? Was there a delay there?
Just before 3, so yes.
Now that we've heard from Mom, we're going to take a look at some of the pre and post tests that we put Gunner through. Each test and each motor skill is linked to a specific sensory motor need. We'll go more into that in the conference, but I think it's important for us to realize that this is a young man that went through 7 years of intensive physical therapies, and the pre and post tests will show you what we were able to achieve in just 5 sessions.
This first test is used to gauge the participant's ability to control their head. We simply ask the participant to move their head from side to side. This is important because if you don't have good head control, all the sensory input coming from your head, your visual system, your vestibular system, is all going to be altered, and it's going to be incorrect. And as you can see, Gunner is struggling quite a bit with this drill. No doubt that has contributed to his lack of volleyball skills, as well as his overall movement skills and coordination. This is a video of the post-test taken just 4 weeks or 5 sessions after the pre-test. As you can see, the correction is complete. He has no problem moving his head from side to side. And as you're going to hear from your mother, this had dramatic effects in his volleyball. And his coach actually noticed it after just the first session. This next exercise is used to test a person's proprioceptive ability. That is their ability to tell where their body is in space. The participant is simply asked to just move their head up and down. Keep the rest of your body still. Just move your head. As you can see, he's struggling greatly with this. And this is despite the fact that we're giving him multiple verbal commands, which really brings up an interesting point. If you are giving someone verbal commands and they can't feel where their body is in space, not only are they going to move poorly, but they're also going to have a difficult time correcting movement problems. So next time you have someone that doesn't respond to good verbal cues, you may be looking at a proprioceptive issue. Okay, as you can see, this is the same proprioceptive test recorded 5 sessions later. You can see here that he is in total control of his head and his movements. His proprioception is very high now, and this had a tremendous carryover into his volleyball game and skills. His mother said that he was now feeling very aware of where his body was. He even reported that he felt as if he was floating through the air, something that he had never experienced before because of a lack of awareness. It should be noted that this exercise is not what improved his proprioception, but it is what tests for his proprioception. The next test we put Gunnar through was segmental rolling. Participants are encouraged to try to initiate the roll with their upper body and then let it carry down through to their lower body, almost like you're unraveling. As you can see here, Gunnar is very stiff. There is no disassociation between his shoulder and his hip, which is a big thing we're looking for. This is very important in rotational activities such as a volleyball serve or such as a volleyball spike. And as you can see, his looks more like a log roll. And it's also important that if you're stiff through the spine, you can't create fluidity throughout your limbs and your body. So again, we're looking for disassociation, the separation between their shoulders and their hips, important in a lot of movement skills. So this post test is the one test that we were not able to record on his 5th session. So this video is actually from his 6th session, therefore the different close. But as you can see, again, a dramatic change in his rotational ability. There is a big separation between his shoulder and his hip, which contributed to increased rotational skills such as serving and hitting. Also, he was much more fluid in his movements because, again, through a loose and flexible spine, we can produce fluid movements. The 4th and final test we use is crawling. Crawling tests the participant's ability to move contralaterally. That is your right arm with your left leg and vice versa. Contralateral movement is essential in daily tasks such as walking, throwing, kicking, running. It is first developed when crawling as a child, and as you heard from the interview with Gunnar's mother, he didn't start crawling till he was 18 months old. It's very obvious from his frustration and difficulties that he never really mastered that movement. And in my opinion, it may have been something that therapists just kind of rushed to try to get him to walk and didn't have him spend enough time crawling. You're going to see dramatic change in this movement with the post-test. Okay, as you can see in this post-test, Gunnar's ability to move contralaterally is dramatically improved. He's moving with fluidity. He's moving with certainty. He doesn't have to think about what he's doing. I'll give you complete transparency. We did a lot of crawling in his 5 sessions, but we did that because of the profound effects it can have on the rest of your body, including core strength, hip and shoulder strength. But crawling also helps integrate the right and left hemisphere of the brain. Your whole body has to work in concert together. So in our next couple videos, you'll see us having Gunnar crawl in ways that he had never crawled before. And he is able to complete this on the very first try because the concept of contralateral movement is firmly established. So I don't know how many of you have ever crawled backwards, but it's not a very easy skill to master your first time. But here is a young man who could barely figure out how to crawl forward, and just after 5 sessions, he's introduced to a brand new movement, and he can immediately master it because the contralateral concept is fully ingrained in his brain, it's accepted, and now it's the way his body wants to move. And again, this had great transfer over into his sporting skills as well. The final unrehearsed skill we threw at Hunter during his 5th session was the sideways crawl. Because I had used forward crawling in his training sessions, I thought it was very important that we throw new skills at him to fully test if the contralateral concept had been fully ingrained into his movement pattern. As you can see, it has been. And I think that this brings up a very important point. When we improve someone's motor skill ability or their coordination, we improve their ability to acquire new skills, which is really the gold standard of movement professionals.
To conclude this segment of Gunnar's amazing transformation, I wanted to include a couple brief interviews I had with his mother following our 5 interventions. I can't even tell you how fulfilling it was to both hear the joy and gratitude in her voice and to see it on her face as we discussed the improvements that her son had made. One thing that didn't come up in our interview was the fact that Gunnar's handwriting had dramatically improved. And this was something that we discussed was a possibility because of the improvement in his sensory motor input. So it's not just gross motor skills, it's also fine motor skills, but it also transitioned over into his sports and his athletics as well.
Okay, so we've been working with Gunnar for about 5 sessions now. What changes have you noticed?
I would say I've noticed some tremendous changes in his overall coordination and movement skills. His body awareness has also greatly increased, which has helped improve his hitting on the volleyball court.
That's great. So how soon after we started working with him would you say you started to notice changes?
It was pretty quick. I would say probably about a week and a half or so.
Okay, that's great. So I heard that his coach also noticed pretty early on, made a comment. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, after about the second session, his coach came up to me and said, I don't know what Gunnar's been doing, but in the last week and a half, his coordination has completely changed.
Wow, that's great. I guess he also gave Gunnar a pretty big compliment on his jump serve.
Yeah, he said that for a kid his age, he's now developed one of the best jump serves he's ever seen.
Wow, that's great.
Yep.
And you know, going through the circumstances that he did through his birth and then having to go through all the therapy, this is probably something you could have only hoped for, to hear that his athletic development has achieved this high.
Yes, to be honest, for a while I was more concerned about his ability to walk and live a normal life, but this is more than I could have ever hoped for.
Awesome. So, speaking of body awareness, would you mind sharing what Gunnar said about how he felt? I think it was after just his first session, how he felt when he did his jumping.
Yeah, his first volleyball practice after his first session, on the car ride home, he told me that he felt like he was floating during his practice.
That's awesome. So he was probably jumping better. And the cool thing is, he didn't just improve in his roll, he didn't improve in his crawl, but he actually has transferred over to his athletic achievement, and he can feel it, which is awesome.
Absolutely, after one session.
The next section in this video is going to be a personal testimony from one of the elite athletes that I train. Hunter Smith is a standout lacrosse player for the University of Richmond. Hunter was chosen as preseason All-American and mid-season All-American, and just this evening he was selected 10th overall in the lacrosse professional draft by the Boston Cannons. During this video, you're going to see that Hunter uses all the techniques that I used with Gunnar, and you're going to hear that his personal testimony that he believes and feels that they put him at peak movement prior to his games.
Okay, I'm here with Hunter Smith, Division I lacrosse player for the University of Richmond. Hunter, we've been working together since spring of your senior year, and really are a great story, because I know when you went in as a freshman, you hoped just to catch the coach's attention, to have them know you're even there. You ended up starting and guarding the #1 defender since your freshman year, and then your sophomore year, you end up making first team Atlantic 10, and then this past year as a junior, you make All-American. And ESPN analysts actually said that you're the best defender in the country. So a lot of accolades, you've done super well, tremendous story. And one of the reasons I really like working with you is because I have a lot of tools I like to give athletes. And you probably more than any of them have done a great job of taking those tools, implementing them, and using them on a consistent basis. And I think that you've felt the difference that they've made for you. Can you just tell me a little bit about what you do as a pregame routine?
Yeah, so my pregame routine, I do it religiously every single time. I start with rolling, rocking, and crawling. And then I'll lead that into doing signal 6, and then I'll do Chapman's reflexes after that. And it really just gives me like the confidence in myself that I know I'm at peak movement in those moments of the game.
Yeah, and so it's not just really psychological either. I mean, you do feel the difference in the movement, and when we've done pre-testing.
Absolutely, you can just see a difference. There's videos before and after we do the Chapman's movements, and it's just a night and day difference. And you can just really feel the pop when you're moving. That's
awesome. And so again, I love watching you play, and it's been a great story, and hope you do very well in this upcoming year.
Thanks, Coach.
This video will again be a personal testimony from one of the elite athletes that I work with. Sheldon Cyberling is an elite thrower. He is a New York State champion in the shot put, and now is on a full scholarship to Clemson University. Prior to his state championship, I was asked to help Sheldon because he was not feeling well. Having had to travel to New York City and then sleep for 2 nights in a hotel, he got up the morning of the state championship, was completely off. So the work that I did with Sheldon had nothing to do with the rolling and crawling and developmental movement phases that I worked with the 2 other people. but this was the Chapman's reflexes and some of the other work that I do that we roll into warm-ups that can have an immediate and profound effect. It's almost like magic. Sheldon will tell you more about it, but you can see the joy and astonishment on his face of what went from one of the worst performances of his life in the weight throw to turned into the greatest performance he ever had in the shot put just a half an hour later. And it's a great story, so I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, I'm here with the New York State 2025 Indoor State Shot Put Champion, Sheldon Seiverling. And Sheldon, what a great story. And now you're going to be going on a scholarship to Clemson to throw shot put. Just a great story. So I had an opportunity to work with you a little bit before the state championship. We did a little restorative movement sequence. And if I'm right, you correct me if I'm wrong, going into the state championship, you were ranked in the top 3 or 5 in the weight throw, and things just didn't go well. What place were you at that time?
Well, I was seated to medal. I was supposed to get a medal, and I did not perform how I wanted to. I ended up getting like 14th or 15th place, which was pretty bad.
Right.
But I ended up having a shot later, and I'll tell you about that.
Yep. And so with that, your coach Geiger, came over and talked about the situation. I need to say right now, Coach Geiger, I believe, is the best throws coach in the state. You're a super hard worker. You squat a lot. You do all the lifts. You've got unbelievable technique and speed. But on that day, that just wasn't your day. And you were in a deep place and you weren't going well. And Coach Geiger actually came over and told me, he said, you're moving like your feet were in mud. You remember that?
I was moving slow. Like I was in mud.
And you didn't feel like you had it at all that day. And well, what we did is we did some movement restoration sequence work. And do you mind telling us a little bit how you felt afterwards, and then we'll talk about what happened.
Yeah, so before, like 45 minutes before, we did all that activation stuff, and after I got up, after a couple times doing it, I felt like it was a new day. I was like, is it a new day out? Like, this is unbelievable.
Yep.
Everything just felt activated, and the muscles that I haven't been using for months, I was using, and it got me a state championship.
Yep.
So.
And so the cool part was, I remember you saying that. I feel like it's a new day. I feel like a new person. And then you went out there, and you didn't go in ranked number 1, did you?
No, actually. I think I was seated second or third.
Second or third.
Yeah.
And if I'm right, you threw a PR for that season in that meet.
Yeah, that was my personal best. That was the farthest throw I've ever had, and then that was the farthest throw. No, second farthest throw in Section 5 history, indoors.
Yeah.
So it turned from a horrible day. We did the activation stuff, and it just completely turned everything around. It was unreal.
Yep. So your movement definitely changed, and just the way you were feeling.
Everything, mentality, everything was just activated, and it was awesome.
Yep. And so, actually, you had 2 throws better than anybody in the state, because you had it wrapped up before you unlaunched the last one. What did you end up throwing that day?
61.5.
61.5.
Yeah.
What a big chuck. And now you're going to Clemson. And, you know, I love you. We've actually developed a great relationship since then. And great story. And like I said, I'm not trying to take credit for what you threw, just that you were in a dark place. And when we did the movement restoration, it certainly restored you and put you on a new plane. And you were able to do what you had trained to do and what you could do.
No doubt.
Awesome. Love you, buddy.
Man. Appreciate it.
Yep.
In the final segment of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the profound influence developmental movement exercises can have on motor movements such as running and running form. You're going to see in this video that a young man that was brought to me and really didn't have any awareness of his body. His running form was completely wrong, and his father asked me if there was something I can do about it. He was a little surprised when I didn't do any running drills with this young man. And then just in 14 months, he went from an awkward running young man to someone that Division I football colleges had noticed because of his speed. And you're going to see from some of the pictures the just complete difference, the remake of his running form without ever doing a running drill. So it's pretty amazing, and I think that you'll find it interesting.
So this is a still picture of Max at the end of his freshman year. If you know anything about running, he's doing everything wrong. His hips are back, he's heel striking, and his head is struck weirdly forward. Also, his arms move like he's beating a drum. Despite having been given a ton of verbal cues, Max's running form never changed. His father told me he'd been running like that since he was a little kid. To me, this is a clear sign of someone who doesn't have any proprioceptive feel for where their body is in space. You can give them cues, but they can't change it if they can't feel where their body is. Now, running form can be very difficult to change because it's something that's really ingrained into their body. They've been doing the same thing since they're a little kid, so they've had a lot of practice at running incorrectly. It can be very difficult to change. Here's an actual video of Max running, and you can see the awkwardness and you can hear the awkwardness. And again, we didn't try to change it by doing running drills. 14 months after those pictures and video were taken, I received this text message from his father, who stated that Max had been noticed at the University of Pittsburgh football camp for his speed in running the shuttle run, and that of all the Division I recruits at the camp, Max had run the fastest time in the shuttle run and had the longest standing long jump. So again, this is a picture of his running form 14 months before he was the fastest runner in the shuttle run at the entire camp and had the furthest long jump. 14 months later, with no running drills, no sprint work, this is his new form. The only thing we did was revisit developmental movement activities, and it made this change. Well, you might be asking, how is that even possible? Let's take a look at some other amazing pictures. Max had simply accessed the same motor skill developing exercises that these children had. If you look at them, they're 4 and 5 years old. Their running technique is absolutely perfect. They've never been to sprint coaches. They've never been to training camps. They fall into this pattern based on the developmental movement phases that we go through as a child, and Max had simply revisited them and they changed him. A final note about this young kid who had no awareness of his body. The same year that he got discovered in football, he also participated in track. It was his second sport, so he wasn't really highly motivated, and he went into the year without any additional work in throwing the disc. Yet, he made a 64-foot improvement over his sophomore year. When asked, he would tell people he didn't do any extra work. He was just able to control his body and feel where his body was in space. So his newfound proprioceptive awareness allowed him to correct mistakes that he couldn't correct before. His improved awareness and body control is very evident in this video of him breaking the 30-year-old school record in the discus. He literally is a changed person. Another thing that should be pointed out is over that 14-month span, he grew 5 inches and put on 40 pounds, neither of which help you become a better mover. In fact, they do just the opposite. In true storybook fashion, Max's newfound athletic talents are allowing him to attend Cornell University tuition-free.